looking there right now? What's the very latest you can report?
Hey, Tanya, good to talk to you. Yeah, well, coming into Tel Aviv just a few hours ago, the streets of this normally bustling city was eerily quiet. We understand thousands of people have fled this city because of two intense nights in which we saw just barrage after barrage of Hamas rockets light up the sky here. Many of those rockets intercepted by that Iron Dome missile technology, but of course causing terror not only here in Tel Aviv, but also across southern Israel. In fact, in just the last half hour or so, we've heard sirens all across southern Israel in places like Serdot and Ashkelon, and indeed here in Tel Aviv as well. But with those rockets that are fired from Gaza, we also have intense airstrikes from Israel. Today, we've seen a number of intense airstrikes by the Israeli Air Force inside of Gaza, some so powerful a 12-story building was reduced to rubble. Other parts of the Gaza City, again, reduced to rubble, just huge craters there. And it really just underscores how tense this situation is, how fever-pitched things are, and just how much violence there is on both sides of that wall which separates Gaza and indeed Israel. But in the background of all of this, of course, we have that huge death toll in Gaza and indeed increasing here in Israel. We have real tension inside of Israel in what's known as mixed towns. These are towns where Israelis and Palestinians have lived alongside each other for decades, neighbors, and yet over the last few nights we've seen extraordinary violence in places like Lod, in places like Acre. Again, these are neighbors who have not fought like this for many, many years, and that of course is a very worrying trend that many hope doesn't spill into something even greater than what we're seeing now.
And NPS taking all of that into consideration and also considering that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is beefing up military forces near the Gaza border. How close is this, to becoming an all-out war? And are there any realistic talks of a ceasefire at this point?
Tanya, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, is this a war? Is this not? I mean, it has all the hallmarks of a war. You have intense fighting, you have casualties, and really you have two sides who are just digging in. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying that this is not going to be a quick fight. Hamas saying that they are going to keep fighting, that they're going to keep firing their rockets, going far as saying that they want to see something called a third intifada. An intifada, for those who don't know, is an uprising. The last one we had lasted from the year 2000 to 2005, and it was a horrible 5 years in which we saw extraordinary violence in parts of Israel and indeed in Palestinian territories, and it really just drove a huge wedge between these two sides, which of course have been fighting for so long. And the concern is that very well could happen here. Now, as you mentioned, there are attempts being made in the background for some sort of a ceasefire. We understand Egypt, which of course shares a border with Gaza and Israel, who normally tries to get involved with ceasefires, has been trying. We know the Gulf country of Qatar is